something feels different. You and I need to talk about Bahrain Day 3 because something happened today, and if you were only looking at lap times, you missed it. This wasn't just another testing day. This was the moment the paddock started showing its hand. Some teams look ready. Some teams look nervous. And a few teams, they look genuinely concerned. But here's the real story. Biggest worry in Formula One right now isn't who's fastest. It's whether the 2026 regulations themselves have created a problem no one fully understands yet. And by the end of this episode, I'm going to show you which team might already be ahead of everyone and why the rest of the grid knows it. Quick one before we get into it. If you like calm, insider F1 analysis without all the noise, make sure you're following this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple or Apple. This is where you stay ahead of the story. Let's get into day 3. Ferrari, quiet confidence. Ferrari is starting to look comfortable, and that's not a word we've used often in recent years. Charles Leclerc ended his Bahrain running with one very clear message to his team. They're moving in the right direction, but execution now matters. He's being calm, very measured, focused on long-run behavior and tyre stability. He's not chasing his headlines like some of the other drivers. He's chasing understanding of the car. Inside the paddock, the feeling is this. Ferrari aren't trying to be the fastest right now. They're trying to be ready for race 1. And those are two very different things. Ask yourself this. When Ferrari looked calm in testing, when was the last time that happened? Exactly. Mercedes, a reality check. Now, let's talk about Mercedes, who were looking really good at the beginning of Barcelona and even were considered to be a favourite heading into this testing because George Russell, the number 1 driver, said something today that should get everybody's attention. He described Bahrain as a bit of a reality check and added the team may have taken a step back since Barcelona. That's not sandbagging language. That's assessment language. Mercedes are still deep in correlation work, trying to align their simulation with what the car is actually doing on the track, which means one thing and one thing only. They don't fully understand the car yet. And when a top team doesn't understand its car this late in testing, that matters. No need to panic, but definitely Toto and the team are not comfortable. All right, Aston Martin. This is the biggest concern, believe it or not. This is the story that none of us actually expected. Aston Martin, there was enormous anticipation around Adrian Newey going there and the Adrian Newey era. Massive, huge expectation. Talk of a technical leap, an incredible technical leap. The whole paddock was talking about the coup when Adrian moved to Aston Martin. But instead, Lance Stroll, the boss's son and driver, has openly admitted the team may be 4 to 5 seconds off the top pace. Not tenths or hundredths of a second, seconds. And in Formula One, that's not a gap. That is a canyon. It's a completely different category of driving and racing. Stroll summed it up simply. We have a lot of work to do. Wow. What a revelation. 4 to 5 seconds, and the comment is we have a lot of work to do. Well, here's the uncomfortable question that I think people are really starting to ask. If Newey's first car is this far off early understanding, is the 2026 concept harder to unlock than expected? Or has the 2026 regulations reset the playing field more than anyone predict? Quick pause. If you're enjoying these sharp daily updates from testing, then smash that subscribe button now so you don't miss daily updates and my predictions for the 2026 season, which I will give at the end of day 6. All you have to do is listen to one episode of the All Motorsports Podcast and you are fully caught up with what's been happening overnight. All right, here's where things get interesting. Red Bull. Are they playing mind games or is this real concern? Red Bull say they might only be 4th fastest. Max Verstappen has warned of potential disaster. His words, disaster, with the 2026 regulations. And the team continues to downplay its performance. Are they sandbagging? Now, we've seen this before from Red Bull. They love a good misdirection. But here's what's different this time. The concern isn't just about pace. It's about how these cars behave. Energy deployment, we've spoken about. I speak about it all the time. This is something that the teams are really trying to come to terms with. It is going to be the biggest difference in the first 5 races. The more you know about the energy deployment of these cars, the better you're able to manage the energy deployment of these cars, the better position you're going to be after 5 races, whilst everyone else is still playing catch up. The weight of these cars, they are smaller and lighter. And the other aspect is the dynamic aero and the drivability of these cars. We've seen in the practices many, if not every driver having difficulty bringing these things to a stop, moving them into the corners properly, maintaining their driving lines. It is very, very challenging. And multiple drivers have hinted that these cars are harder to race consistently. That word, consistently. Is this good news for fans? Does this mean that we're not going to be watching the endless lap upon lap upon lap of drivers who are out in front just doing the same thing over and over again? Does this mean we're going to see a lot more errors being made by drivers, therefore opening up these races such that everybody has a chance of getting themselves to the front if they can manage the energy deployment, if they can control the vehicle, and if they can drive consistently? When Verstappen talks about problems, he may not be talking about Red Bull alone. And I think when we watch what's happening on the track, there is significant inconsistency in how the drivers are managing the vehicle every lap. McLaren have now called for safety and regulation discussions before the season even begins. Now, that's a rare thing. Teams don't usually push the regulatory concern publicly unless something feels off internally, not amongst the paddock, but internally. Lando Norris has hinted that new regulations could create more unpredictability, more chaos. Now, for a fan, that actually sounds quite good, so long as this chaos isn't dangerous, that driver's safety is not at risk. If we are just worried about chaos and unpredictability in how the vehicle is going to perform, then I can't see what McLaren's problem is. But here's the emerging pattern. Ferrari, they're cautiously optimistic. Mercedes, well, they're still correlating, so they don't have an ability to make too many comments yet. Aston, well, they're struggling, so they're really not going to be looking to have conversations about regulations at this point. Red Bull, I think they're questioning the new regulations and whether or not this is going to be favourable to F1, but more likely I think it's favourable to Red Bull. And McLaren, well, they just want to, maintain the consistency of winning Constructors' Championships. So any advantage they can get, whether it's in the car or through the modification of regulations, that is what they're after. So what we're seeing is not normal testing behavior. The grid is spending a significant amount of time trying to understand what 26 is actually creating, and they're not going to know until we start racing. Quick pause again. If you're enjoying this deeper analysis, and please, if you really enjoy what I'm saying and you like hearing what I'm reporting, which isn't just telling you what you see on a screen, hit the follow button and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. This podcast exists for one reason, so you don't have to scroll through hours of Formula One news to understand what's actually happening. Now, here's where things get interesting after day 3. The real story of day 3 and what I've been holding off telling you. Here's what day 3 actually told us. The fastest team right now may not be the one talking the most. The calmest garages are the ones gathering the most usable data. And the teams running the longest, cleanest programs are the ones who look operationally ready. Because early season races are not won by peak speed. They're not won by the fastest car. And in this regulation year, change of regulation year, it won't be the fastest car. It'll be the most consistent car. So races are won by teams who understand their car first. So ask yourself these questions. Who at the moment looks comfortable? Ferrari, McLaren, even Haas look comfortable. Who looks settled? Ferrari, McLaren, Haas, and Williams look settled. And I said this after day 2. And then who looks like they already know what their car does? Ferrari, McLaren, Haas, Williams. Because it's that team that might already have the advantage for this Formula One season. Here's the surprise, though. Right now, just based on operational readiness and the long-run consistency, and also looking at what is happening inside the garage, the most settled package in Formula One testing, it doesn't appear to be Red Bull or Mercedes or even Aston Martin. As I've alluded to, it is Ferrari and McLaren who look the most operationally ready for race 1 in Melbourne. They're not setting the fastest times, and they may not necessarily be the fastest vehicles out there on the track, but they are demonstrating that they are the most prepared for race 1. That is so obvious, yet no one other than me is actually talking about this. And if the 2026 regulations really are as complex as teams are hinting, preparation may decide the first 5 races of the season. I've said it in every podcast since I started reporting this year. The first 5 races of the season are decided and will be won by the teams that have the best preparation. It will not be the team with the ultimate pace. I say this, but there are always outliers, and those outliers can exist in a race. Anything can happen in a race, but the consistency in results and the podiums and the constructors' points and the drivers' championship points will go to the team and the driver that has the best preparation. So, before I go, here's the question for you, my viewer. Are teams hiding performance, or are they still trying to understand these cars? Let me know in the comments what you think. This is what I'm seeing, but I want to know if you agree or you disagree. Put aside your team bias and start to look at the whole picture. The other thing you can do for me is make sure you are following my podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, and Apple, so you don't miss what is about to come next. Because if day 3 showed us anything, if it showed us anything, it's that this season might already be taking shape. I'm Nathan, All Motorsports Podcast. Speak to you next time.